I mean, there is two things because Special Olympics is a global organization. If people don't know that it's a fitness and sport organization for children and adults with intellectual disability. So Special Olympics is an organization who does a lot of races and a lot of events around. This is for me, for example, very inspiring to design a course or to
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Sporting Gold podcast. And today I'm here with Dora. And Dora, first of all, thanks for taking the time and Happy New Year. How's life doing these days?
Happy New Year and welcome everyone.
Well, it's great to have you part of the podcast. Of course, it's going to be great learning more about your story, about your career, of course, in the sport industry. And I think, a great way to start is, talk a bit about, how your journey in the sport industry began, and also a little bit about how your passion for triathlon came to life.
Yes. I mean, I come from sport, so I ended up to work in sport industry, but you don't have to be an athlete to work in the sport industry, so it's not parallel. But I used to be a swimmer. My nationality is Hungarian, currently living in Amsterdam in the Netherlands because of my husband's job, and we have 3 children. So I started as a swimmer, and I didn't start it as a swimmer because I wanted to be a swimmer. My mom couldn't swim, so she had fear for water, and she decided when I was really small to take me to the swim pool, to the course. I swam every day like all the other kids, and I got better and better, and I went to compete, but I never made it to a high level in swimming, so I could be on a national team. I could never. I think I barely made it on the podium, but we swam quite a lot. So swimming is long hours, and then somebody at the pool, I think I was around 14, 15, asked me if I want to do pentathlon or triathlon. And somehow I picked triathlon. And because of the swimming background and the endurance sport, I became quite good in triathlon. So despite that I am not, my weakest sport was the running, I could still make the podium, the junior and the youth national team. So we went around Europe and national events. So this is how my triathlon sport started. But then I had to decide. There was a point around 18 that I had to decide if I could become a pro or not. But I was not, again, good enough. So my parents pushed me to go towards studies, to go to university. and we didn't have the financial background to travel around the world. So I still, if you do triathlon or you're familiar with triathlon, then many people has a dream to qualify for Hawaii. It's an Ironman. It's the 3.8 kilometer swim, 180 bike, and 42 run. So the story short, I trained for 2 years. I had a job. I was a student. I qualified, and I made it to the finish line in Hawaii on the Kona Drive. So it was very rewarding, and I still train. I still do triathlon on the age group level. So that's my sport background, and probably this is why I didn't mean to be. I was a salesperson. I worked in a completely different industry, but after the kids were born, I went toward the sport industry to work.
Back to the sport industry, more, maybe not as much as an athlete anymore, but more on the business professional side. But that's a pretty cool story. And I mean, like, it's obviously, I'm sure it must have been like a great just feeling, and to just finish the race in Hawaii. I mean, like, talk a little bit about that race, what makes it unique, and a little bit about, I guess, your experience around it.
I mean, the Hawaii Ironman is like the big one. Your dream. You want to do first an Ironman, which is the long distance, and then you would like to go to Hawaii, where the big names have competed. But you have to qualify. So there is a qualification system. I did it in 2000. I qualified a year before or half a year before. So it's not that easy that you decide, okay, I want to go to Kona and then I go to Hawaii. So it's a little bit, it's expensive to go there. You have to qualify. The qualification races, maybe it doesn't appear to be on your country.
Right.
I trained. It was a hard day. It was a long day. I swam well. I biked there on the run. I had a few I would say weak points, but I finished. I think I was 15th in my age group, and which is not that bad. But I didn't plan to be anything. I just wanted to finish, so that was my goal.
That was your goal.
And but for me, many athletes, age groupers, want to return and want to do it again and again and beat their personal best. For me, I did it. I've been there, done that, and then after a while, I decided to be on the other side of the field. So I decided to organize or to make the race safe from the other side. So not on the field of play, to become an organizer or a technical official. So that was my plan or goal or what I wanted to do.
That's awesome. And like, obviously, let's talk a bit about, you know, what you're doing now. You're obviously a freelance sport event organizer, and talk a bit about the last project that you worked on, and what were some of your key tasks in this project?
So the last one is literally just finished because I was in Doha, Qatar for the FIFA World Cup. This was my first FIFA World Cup event, so it was very, very interesting and huge. I just realized I've been to two Olympics, Rio and Tokyo, which is already a huge event, but I've never been to a football World Cup, which is completely different sport what I've been doing before. And I realized that football unites people, how big effect it has to the spectators, for the audience, for the athletes on the pitch, which I've seen all the big names like really close. I was doing ticketing function. So we had 8 stadium. I was responsible for Ahmad bin Ali, which is a 40,000 spectator stadium, and ticketing manager or stadium ticketing manager position for me was an operational role, which means if the spectators have coming into the inner perimeter from after the security and just trying to enter to the stadium at the turnstile, and they have problem with their tickets, any kind of tickets, mobile ticket, paper ticket, or VIP or hospitality ticket, and they cannot get or cannot access to the stadium, then we have 4 ticketing resolution point where we train the staff. They worked for me. I was on the manager level. So basically we try to help these spectators to enter to the stadium if the family were separated or they had special needs, special access, or many times, unfortunately, they had fake tickets. So these were our tasks to manage.
There's a lot on the plate there, you know, and I'm sure it was some intense times.
It was very intense. It was very intense. We had 29 days and 64 matches.
Wow. Yeah. No, it flies by so fast, you know, and I can imagine like I'm sitting here, you know, at home working and watching, and then, you know, of course, I felt it was fast enough already, so I can imagine how it was for you.
It was very rewarding. It was intense. It was an operational job. But it was nice to make people go through and help them with the tickets. Or unfortunately, we have FIFA rules. Then you know, no fake tickets. You cannot enter to the stadium, and it's all around the world. It's all same events.
How it is.
So we need to respect the rules.
Of course, but yeah, it's a lot of, fortunately, still a lot of fake tickets and stuff out there. So that's a big issue on it alone. But let's talk a little bit, obviously, some of the other works that you've done, and obviously that your different kind of roles as a freelancer, as a sport event organizer, has obviously taken you across the world, working at some amazing events, as you were mentioned, the Olympics, the World Cup, and so forth. What have been some key lessons you brought with you from these international experience? And I wanted to kind of emphasize, you know, just being in different countries, you know, working with different kind of cultures, people, and all this. Like, talk a bit about what lessons you learned from that.
I mean, for me, as I've been living abroad for quite a long time, from Budapest, Hungary, we lived in several countries. So it's already, for me, I've been living in a multicultural area.
Right.
But these competitions, when you have athletes on your races, they are already international. And when you go to these big major games or international or just national competitions, the staff, the organizer, the local organization is coming from different cultural background, different age, different mentality, different background of level of sport. So it's very challenging for everyone to work together on a project. So the project can be small, the project can be longer, from a few weeks to a few months or years, depending what you aiming for or what you are capable to do. But I do think that it's challenging to work, but it's very rewarding that you have different people to work with. You learn how the other people think about solutions, and then basically you improve yourself. With every single event, I learn better situation, better solutions, how to do it better, because it's a puzzle, it's a teamwork. So it's not a one-man show. Most of the jobs are, but this is all the functional areas are connected to each other, and we help each other and we communicate. So internationally, I think it's great that you travel if you can afford it, or you can afford it. I mean, that you are able to travel and you have to leave your family behind, or you don't have a dog at home or kids. Then you have to make some commitment, because this is a different lifestyle. But a lot of young people who are single and they want to explore the world with various sport events, it's the best thing you do. You go from one continent to another, and you meet different peoples with a different background.
That sounds great. And yeah, I mean, like, obviously it's and we're gonna touch a little upon, like, perhaps some tips you have for working some major events and stuff like that. But before that, I wanted to talk a bit about obviously in 2021 you completed your level 3 technical officer for World Triathlon. You also happened to become the best technical officer in Europe the last 2 years, which, first of all, congrats on that. But to talk a little about, for people that don't know, what a technical official is, and what are some of the responsibilities you have as a technical official for the World Triathlon?
It's not just me. There are many technical officials in several sports, but obviously my sport is triathlon, where I am practicing as a technical official. Basically, the technical official is somebody who is making sure that the athletes have no advantage or disadvantage on the competition. They have the same equal circumstances, and they compete in the same environment. So there is a competition rule book in every single sport. You can practice, you can do competitions or matches, whatever the sport requires. And then you have to pass exams depending on what level, what area, what functions. So if, for example, an athlete makes a mistake or take advantage to another athlete, then makes, for example, very, very simple, shorten the course. If it's a 5K race on the triathlon and that person just cuts one end because of, even if it's not correctly marked, or because he doesn't know, or that means that person has run less distance than all the others. So this means that the technical official have to record it, has the evidence, and the head referee decides what penalty is giving. Cutting a course on usually it's a disqualification, but we usually give time penalty on different fragments, but it even applies for age group athletes and for elite athletes. So we are practicing to be a technical official, not just for the elite who is training for the big world championships or the Olympics. Age group races also has technical officials where drafting is not allowed, for example. So there are several rules, and we as a technical official work in one team, and we make a decision on the penalty, which is not a really nice thing. But to make it equal for everyone, that you are on the podium on the right place, then you need to have a team to support you, that the course is the same for everyone. So I was nominated 2 years. I didn't win. I wasn't the best technical official, but I was nominated, which was really honoring. But all the technical officials in Europe, we know each other and we work together at several competitions. It gave me a lot of knowledge about triathlon and sport, honestly. So for me, being a freelance sport event organizer and a technical official combines the two together. So I know the rules. I know what to do on a competition. I know how to design a course.
Right.
what is the national federation requirements, what is the safety rules. So all these is my knowledge because it's an official, and I can really implement it in my other job as a freelance
Yeah,
organizer
for
when
sure.
I know that. So I do these two things basically at the
Mm,
same time. Many times the technical officials job or requirements is self-funded,
mm.
or they just pay your expenses. So it's not a paid job
Yeah, yeah.
that you go there. It's more of then that you invest your own energy and then your own money to be an official.
Still a very important role though, you got to make sure people people do things the right way, at the end of the day. So
Yeah, yeah,
it's a critical role, and I'm glad you can, at least it's always good. And I talk a lot about this for, students, professionals too, that it's like sometimes they're very set on like, oh, I want to work for like a football club, or I want to work with this, or I want to work with that, right? And they're very specific on it, and say sometimes it's good to kind of, branch out, right, and see how all the different elements are working, right? And we talk about like just your responsibilities and how you're utilizing that knowledge as the technical official, right, in your other roles, and vice versa, right? So it's always important to kind of, see how the puzzle pieces
yeah,
comes together at the end of the day, and then of
yes,
course maybe specialize more as you want. But you
yeah.
also been the Special Olympics rule advisor, and obviously we don't necessarily have to go too much into the role, but what tips do you have for anyone looking to work at the Olympics? Like obviously you've been working different Olympics as well. So talk a bit about, just for those that one day, wanna get a role, or be involved in the Olympics one day.
I mean, there is two things because Special Olympics is a global organization. If people don't know that it's a fitness and sport organization for children and adults with intellectual disability. So
Mm.
Special Olympics is an organization who does a lot of races and a lot of events around. This is for me, for example, very inspiring to
Sure.
design a course or to organize a competition for these athletes,
Yeah.
and of course for para athletes who have some kind of a physical or mental disability. So
Mm.
for them, we have to organize the course, the matches, or the event on a more careful and special way because
Right.
safety is the priority. For example, for them to swim in the deep water. So these are the spectrum for me regarding Special Olympics and para events
Mm.
that really inspiring.
Yeah.
Regarding the other questions, working on the Olympics is everybody's dream, right?
Yeah.
So you
Right.
want to work because you see it on the TV, and this is every 4 years,
Yeah.
and it's inspiring to see these athletes to achieve either Summer Olympics or Paralympics, because both is an amazing event, and they are right after each other. I
Yeah.
mean, what I did when I started, that I did a lot of volunteer work, and I still do volunteer work despite
Mhm.
whatever I do. I go to the marathon, I go to a running race, or I go to any local or regional events. Then I just do functions which I'm not familiar with, and I
Mhm.
help the athletes. This
Right.
is how you get to know what their needs, what's the circumstances when you have special, very special incidents, how to help them, how to do the in the book we say risk assessment, what happens on the race when the storm is coming, what happens if there is a medical incident on the race. So basically all these little tips and little problems
Yeah.
occur by experience. So I think volunteering on any sport, even Olympics, is a good start, because then if I have volunteers, for example, most of my races, I try to mentor them, help them,
Right.
gave the knowledge away. Of course, they put their money, they come here and work for free, but they want to go away with something which they experienced and they can put it in the
Right.
future. So Olympics is something special.
Yeah.
Um, every single event, every 4 years, they are hiring more and more
Right.
interns, like on the lower level. So it doesn't mean that just because it's an Olympics, then only just the high and the well experienced people get hired.
For
They
sure.
do need people who are young and enthusiastic, and they want to go for a sport. special function area, what you pick. It can be broadcasting, it can be transport, it can be hospitality, it can be ticketing or venue management or operation. So there are a lot of functions in the Olympics where they need people. So I would encourage, I mean, my dream was also to go to Tokyo, and I got selected as a technical official. Obviously, it was different circumstances because of COVID. We didn't have spectators, and we had very, very, very strict rules. But I was there, and I was on the field of play, and I felt amazing, and I felt privileged that I could be there. So the path there is long, and maybe there is a big competition. But beside the Olympics, you can target the top, which is the Olympics, but there are other major games. There are European games, there are Pan American games, there are other regional continental games where you can start gaining it, or just your local village, to do a simple running race where you do everything, and then you have more experience. So I think it's great. And I would just say everybody can go for it if that's what you want, and that's your dream.
Absolutely. No, it's, I mean, like, you got to go for it, of course. And I think you mentioned some really good advice in terms of never stop volunteering, and I think that's sometimes I think a lot of young, we think we're going to get that big job right away, and maybe, just once we're done with our education, it's just straight to the job, and then we're straight to the Olympics, right? And have a good role. Doesn't always work.
You mentioned on your CV that you volunteered for this and this and this, and many companies looking at, this person. I also put my volunteer work in my CV when I am in the same situation as you, students or any other, that I apply for jobs, I apply for projects, and I apply quite regularly when one is finishing that this is what I did for volunteer work.
Exactly. So it's important part of the industry, right? And what people are looking for. And I know that we're running out of time here, so I just wanted to kind of wrap up a little bit with the last question. And obviously you participated at many major events, different roles, different sports, and you mentioned, obviously volunteering being one of the key advice for working with the Olympics and so forth. But what would be, some other advice you have for students looking to get a career in the sport industry, perhaps, working for different major events, and so forth?
I mean, I love what I do. So it's the first thing that if your goal is to work in this industry, and obviously because you like sport. So if you have the love for sport, or in any kind of sport or any kind of function, what you think for, that's already a good drive, because you can do everything, but you can do things more if you like it. And you have the feeling for it. So I did it, I had it, but I came from triathlon, and I went from triathlon because this is what my drive was. My other drive is that to help people with disability, because I think not many people are, or actually, let's put it that way, less people interested on para or other events for these kind of athletes than the other part. So for me, this is a really challenging thing that I think that's drive. And basically to study, to experience the different events would be my advice. Or if you want to do a startup, then you just start and design your own competition when you have a lot of experience and a lot of difficulties at the beginning. My advice is just to go experience, look at the websites, look at the specific. I do a little bit of wider range of sports and functions, but if you want to specify your knowledge about one specific area, then I can advise that one. So if you just want to do hospitality and deal with the VIP people because you are passionate and you have good skills for this kind of industry, then just go for it. Or if you are technical and you have IT background, then maybe you just go for that direction. So you can, of course, narrow down your knowledge or your interest
Yep.
And these are my advices, and go for it. Help people. Don't be ashamed to ask questions.
Yep.
And if you have a right mentor and a right teacher and the right boss, then I think you can just manage your expectations.
Awesome. Well, perfect, Dora. With that, of course, I would like to thank you for taking the time, for sharing your stories and insights with the Sporting Global community and everyone listening to the podcast. It was great having you part of the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
And to kind of like wrap up here as well, for those of you that have been listening all the way at the end, make sure to like the video, subscribe as well, so you get weekly tips, from leaders like Dora in the industry, sharing their inside tips with you. And of course, if you haven't, make sure to sign up at sportingglobal.com. It's free to sign up. You can connect with like-minded people, find relevant programs and courses, and of course, opportunities that are happening in the industry. So make sure to check that out. And last, Dora, we kind of have a Sporting Global podcast tradition here that I have to bring out that I never mentioned it in the emails. It's just a surprise, for people. So I have to teach you a little bit Norwegian.
Okay, what is that?
So with every video we do, we always finish with "Vi snakkes," which means see you later in Norwegian. So that's what you have to say.
Vi snakkes?
Yeah, there you go. Easy.
Okay, vi snakkes.
Yeah, vi snakkes. Thank you so much, Dora. All right, have a good one.
Thank you, bye.